जो दिल्ली में स्थित है, भारतीय विद्या एवं मूर्तिकला आदि विषयों पर अध्ययन अध्यापन का कार्य कर रहा है। इस संस्थान के द्वारा स्कल्पचर एंड टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ इंडिया ऑनलाइन कोर्स का प्रारंभ किया गया है। आज उसका 5वां सेशन है। आज के इस सेशन में हम जैन एवं ब्राह्मणिकल टेम्पल्स फ्रॉम राजस्थान एंड गुजरात इस विषय पर डॉक्टर पवन जैन जी हमें उनका प्रवचन देंगे, व्याख्यान देंगे। आपने विगत व्याख्यानों से देखा ही होगा कि भारत देश की प्राचीन स्थापत्य एवं मूर्तिकला कितनी विकसित हुई थी और कितनी समृद्ध है। उनको देख करके हमें आश्चर्य हो रहा है कि हमारे पूर्वजों ने इस विद्या को बहुत ही अच्छी तरह हस्तगत कर ली थी। आज हम राजस्थान और गुजरात के टेम्पल्स के बारे में बात करेंगे। इस स्कल्पचर एंड टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ इंडिया के इस ऑनलाइन कोर्स के आयोजन में हमें हमारे स्पॉन्सरर हैं, उनको भी मैं उनका स्मरण करता हूं। हमारे स्मारक के अध्यक्ष श्रेष्ठी श्री राजकुमार जैन ओसवाल जी, हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट के अध्यक्ष श्री निर्मल भाई भोगीलाल, हमारे पूर्व उपाध्यक्ष जो सदगत हो गए हैं, उनके स्मृति में उनके पुत्र द्वारा इस ऑनलाइन कोर्स को स्पॉन्सरशिप की है धनेश जी जैन और राजकुमारी जैन, जिनके परिवार की तरफ से दर्शन डीके जैन आदि ने इस कोर्स को स्पॉन्सर किया है। मैं उन सभी का स्वागत करता हूं। आज इस कोर्स में मैं डॉक्टर पवन जैन जी का स्वागत करता हूं और इस कोर्स में जुड़े हुए सभी प्रतिभागियों का स्वागत करता हूं। गुजरात और राजस्थान की स्थापत्य एवं मूर्तिकला कितनी प्राचीन और कितनी वैविध्य सभर है, जब हम ये इस विषय में पवन जी से सुनेंगे तब हमें पता चलेगा। और उसका जो स्थापत्य कला है उसके बारे में, मतलब राणकपुर, देलवाड़ा, तारंगा आदि अनेक मंदिर है जो विश्व विख्यात है। ऐसे विश्व विख्यात स्थापत्य को जानने के लिए मैं पवन जी जैन को आमंत्रित करता हूं। पवन जी, आप पधारिए और आज के इस अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर प्रकाश डालिएगा।
धन्यवाद सर। वेलकम एवरीबॉडी।
बीच में आप थोड़ा बहुत कुछ जो हमारे प्रतिभागी हैं उनका एक सुझाव था कि कुछ थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी में भी बोल दिया कीजिएगा।
ओके ओके, श्योर। या ठीक है। So we learnt about temples of Kashmir and the other hill regions, the Himachal area and Uttaranchal, and we saw the typical characteristics या वहाँ की मूलतः किस तरीके से वहाँ के मंदिर बने गए हैं, वहाँ की जो climatic conditions है, they were governing as to what kind of structures could be made, and they also were kind of imitating the domestic houses जो रहने के घर वहां पे जिस तरीके से बनते थे, उसी तरीके से मंदिरों का भी निर्माण हुआ, क्योंकि वहां पर इतनी ज्यादा बर्फ वगैरह गिरती है। तो उसी हिसाब से जो मंदिरों का की जो स्थापत्य है वो इस शेप में, और गेबल्ड रूफ जिसको हम कहते हैं, और पिरामिडल रूफ और फमसाना रूफ, उस तरीके से बनती थी। जबकि हमारे पास ये सामने हम स्क्रीन पर देख रहे हैं, there are two kinds of superstructure that we have normally on North Indian or the Naga temple, which is, this is the Latina or the Rekha Deol, or Rekha type of superstructure, which is kind of almost goes in a straight line and then kind of curves at the top. So curvilinear we call it, or the Rekha Deol, or Latina as we call it. And this one is, of course, the Shekhri Shikhar. Shekhri Shikhar is, which is made up of many, many minor shikhars, or the smaller, like the Uru Shringas or the Karna Shringas. And this is the Mool Manjri, the central one. And the entire cluster comes together in an ascending form and almost gives you a feel of, various mountain peaks. And that's why the very name is Shikhar, right? So these are the two main temple types rather, that we will encounter in the North Indian temples, whether they are from Rajasthan, Gujarat, or they are from Madhya Pradesh, or for that matter, even the Odishan temples, right? So keeping this in mind, now we will proceed towards learning something about the various temples. So I'm not going to be telling you about all the temples. I mean, whatever temples I thought were, typical of these regions, I will discuss about those. And then, of course, in your spare time, you can look at other temples like the Taranga temple or the Kumbharia temple, the Girnar or the Shatrunjay temples, which are very, very popular, the Jain temples that you can look at. Right. So we spoke about these main constituents of the Naga temple, the Jagati, the Pitha, the Adhishtan or the Vedibandh, the Jangha, and then this is the Varandika, or the division, which kind of from where the Shikhar or the superstructure starts and where the Jangha or the walls end. So this is the Varandika. And this is, of course, the Chadya or the Danda Chadya or the shade, right? So some of the terms that we encounter in different parts of India. So say the Jangha becomes a Mandovar, when we talk about Rajasthan and Gujarat area. So some nomenclature about the term, the temple terminology changes slightly. So Jangha together with the Danda Chadya and the Varandika, these all three parts together, they are called the Mandovara. Okay. And similarly, the Jagati, the lowermost part, is also called the Bhitta. So likewise, there are few differences that you will encounter. And also this top part here, this is called the Udgam, okay, which is kind of capping any kind of a niche there. Now I'm showing you, these are some of the basal moldings in a very, very highly developed temple. And I had told you the very base moldings were Khura, Kumbha, Kalash, Antarpat, and Kapotpalli. So these are just variations of those similar shapes that we encountered earlier. So the lowermost Kapot is also called the Jade Kumbhaya. Okay, and this is the Karnika. Then this is the Gajapitha. Gajapitha is where you have an elephant frieze. The frontal part of the elephant will be seen on one, in a register like that. Okay. Then this, of course, is the Kapot that I have already explained to you. Then this again, Khura, and this is Kumbha. Then this is Kalash, and this is Antarpat, and then this is Kapot again. All right. And then this particular area is this area. Okay. So here, this base thing is called the Vasanta, or this is called the Vedika. This is the Asan Patta, yeah. This is the Asan Patta, and something which is kind of a seat back like this when we are sitting. So this is the seat back, which is also called the Kakshasan. So normally we will encounter this whenever there are open balconies, or there are lateral transepts which are there, which there is a place for the pilgrims to sit and lean back like this. So these are called the Kakshasanas, and these are the smaller or the stunted pillars that actually then rise from that Kakshasan right up till the ceiling. Okay. So, seeing both these slides, now we will proceed towards the learning of some of the temples. It was important for me to point out this because as we move forward in this, whole online course, we will find that the temple ornamentation and the decoration becomes more and more elaborate and more intricate, for that matter. Okay. So Maru Gurjar temples, mainly the temples we are going to learn from middle of 8th century, okay, from region of Rajasthan and Gujarat. So the first area that comes to our minds is the Osia group of temple, or the Osia, both names are prevalent. Of course, right now it's a very, very small village near Jodhpur, if some of you may have visited Jodhpur or Jaisalmer. So very close to Jodhpur, almost, you can say a suburb for that matter. And it was controlled by the Gurjar Pratiharas and a minor, very minor ruling family of the Abhiras in the 8th, 9th centuries. Okay. And though today, all these temples are in ruins in Osia, but there are altogether 16 temples there, and which actually testify to the that probably it was once a very, very flourishing center, for that matter. Okay. So first temple that we are going to look at is the Harihara temple, number 2. Now, number 2, as I have already spoken about, these numbers are given by Archaeological Survey of India. Okay. There is no order of seniority or importance over here that we talk about, that probably number 1 is more important. No, it is the order of excavation, and accordingly these numbers have been imparted. In fact, there is another temple, Harihar number 1 also is there. There is 3 also. Okay. So this is the 8th century temple, as we can see, middle of 8th century and almost last quarter of 8th century. Okay. So the sanctuary entrance, I can tell you, it has this open mandap. You can see here, this is the main temple, the Garbhagriha here and the Shikhar here on top. And this is the high Jagati on top, you can see, with very, very bold moldings here. Do you see this? The Khura, Kumbha, Kalash, Antarpata, the Kapota, all are very, very bold moldings. And not only that, there are these minor niches that you see even in the Jagati here. So this is another advancement that we are seeing now. We saw this feature in Marthan temple or the Avantiswamy temple also, and which is actually continuing here. You can see some divinities placed inside these. So these niches are also called the Khattakas in the local language. Okay. And when you look at the sculptural plan on this temple, you will see it is west facing, right? So when it is west facing, so normally we will do the Pradakshina from this side. Okay. So it is a Nirandhar Prasad. Nirandhar Prasad means there is no inner circumambulation. So one has to come out and take the Pradakshina. Because it is west facing, we will go anti-clockwise. And first we will find Ganesh here, Ganesh, and then there is, let me just move further then. Oh, okay. So Harihara, we all know it is the conjoint form of Shiva and Vishnu, right? And many of us would already know the story about how the very form of Harihara came into being, right? So whenever So there is a story behind this, that when there was this Sagar Manthan that was happening, so it was Asuras who had kind of, at one point, they had run away with this kalash of Amrit, है ना? वो लेकर के चले गए थे. And then all the gods went to Shiva as to, they all went to Vishnu as to, now suppose if the Asurs drink all the, elixir of life, then there's going to be a total chaos and, total disorder will be there in the cosmos. So please do something. So Vishnu takes on the form of Mohini, the very, very most attractive woman, to lure the Asuras, and he goes in front of them and he says that, okay, let me take the kalash back from you, and then I will pour, each of you can stand in a line or whatever, and I'm going to give you this whole thing. And this is how he gets back, that pot which had contained Amrit. Okay. And he was narrating this story to Shiva. And Shiva, being, the most obstinate and, all that, he said that, come what may, I want you to take on that form again for me. And I want to see how beautiful it was, because everybody swore by the beauty of Mohini that Vishnu had kind of had encompassed inside him. Okay. And after, so Vishnu, of course, kept, telling, he kept telling Shiva that, no, it's not possible. And nobody on this earth or in all the three, realms has been able to, stay away from the charms of this particular lady, Mohini. But Shiva, did not, succumb to this, and Vishnu had to take on the form of Mohini once again for Shiva. Okay. And of course, as was already kind of imagined, or it was forecasted by Vishnu, that Shiva, of course, fell for Mohini. And then with the union of this Mohini and Shiva, we have the Harihara came into being. Okay. And that's why we say he has the properties of, or the attributes of, both Vishnu and Shiva. That's the story. So whenever we have any icon of Harihara, he will have, both. He will have a trident also in one hand, Trishul, and a Gada, Shank, ye sab, he will be holding. And this is, and even his hairstyle, on one side he'll have the Kirit Mukut of Vishnu, and on one side he'll have a Jatajut, etc., etc. So that's how you can recognize the image of Harihara. So you can see Panchratha in plan and elevation both. Now on this, in this slide, हम बहुत अच्छे से पहचान सकते हैं कि what do I mean by a Panchratha plan? I clearly told you earlier, Panchratha means 5 offsets. So you can easily count here. This is one wall of Garbhagriha, which has 5 projections. This is the main Bhadra niche, as we call this. This is the Bhadra in the center. And these are called the Pratirathas. Okay, Pratirathas are the sub projections here, these 2. And then these are the Karna Rathas. Karna means the corner ones. So every corner will have 2 Rathas. So this wall will have 2, and the adjacent wall will again have 1 more Karna Ratha. Likewise, all the 3 walls of the Garbhagriha will have these 5 projections, or the Panchrathas, as that's why we call it Panchrathas. And we will also call it Trianga. 3 means 3 and Anga means parts. So 1, 2 and 3. So what are the 3 Angas? The Bhadra, the Pratiratha and the Karna. These are the 3 which are getting repeated here. So Panchratha in plan, and how many Angas? But 3 Angas, right? And also in later temples, you see these antaras, or the intervals in between, the gaps that you see, the recesses. So these are also ornamented, in later temples. Not one inch of the temple is left without any kind of ornamentation. So these are termed as salilantars. Salil means beautiful, and antar means, of course, the interval or the recess. So these are called the salilantaras. And in this salilantar, normally you will find the Vyala figures or the Surasundaris or the Apsaras, normally flanking the main deity here inside the Parivar Devta here. And on this side, you will have the Surasundaris. So this is basically the program of this sculpture plan. Normally, you will find in Indian, highly developed North Indian temples. And sometimes similar plan you will find in the some of the Dravidian temples also. So these are called the Udgamas. Udgam means something which is rising. So pediments, of course, because this is the shape which is, and these are, of course, what are these? The Gavakshas or the minor Chandrashalas, right? So normally in Gujarat and Rajasthan and some of the Madhya Pradesh temples also, you will find most of the time these niches or the bhadras are capped by these Udgamas. Okay, this is also a typical feature. So now you can see the figure of Ganesh here. Right, we are entering from this side, for a circumambulation. And here you have, of course, Shiva in this portion, and you have probably another figure, Vishnu here. Right. And why do we have Ganesh here? Normally in all the temples, you are starting with Ganesh and ending with Mahishasur-Mardini or Durga sculpture on the opposite wall of this. Okay. So now Shikhar, let's come to Shikhar. So Shikhar, actually the same kind of plan is getting, it's being continued in the superstructure area also. So this also, the superstructure is also Pancharatha in plan, right? The same thing is being carried forward, the same projections that we have here. And these are called the Bhumi Amlakas. As I told you earlier also, the Amlakas and the Bhumi Amlakas are probably mainly it is distinguishing as to how many stories the temple is made up of. Okay. And this is, of course, the mesh of Gavakshas or the arches in the central Ratha and in the adjoining Rathas. Okay. So sometimes, most of the time, these temples in the area, you will find usually 5 to 7 stories, and which is indicated by these Bhumi Amlakas here, okay, which are often, you will find they are repeated on these Karn Rathas. These are the corner ones, so normally you will not find them here. Normally they are repeated on the Karn Rathas on the Shikhar, okay. Fine. So this is, of course, a close-up of the Jangha wall, or the, as they call it, the Mandovar in this area. So we can see different divinities here. And this particular deity, I'll show, I think I have a very close-up also of this particular divinity here. So you can see this, a chain of looped garland motif that is, topped here when the Jangha is ending here. And then you have a pair of these kapotas here, these two, and in between again you have everyday scenes, some kind of entertainment scene, etc. Guru Shishya Parampara, all those that you can see here. And then on top again you have these some divinities seated here. Okay, so this is the detail of one of the Jangha walls. So in the center, in fact, this is, if some of us may recognize this, this is the Trivikrama, Vishnu Trivikrama, when he appeared in the aspect of the Vaman avatar, okay, and he meets demon Bali that time, okay. In fact, this is, we are looking at the south side of the temple, and Vaman is the 5th avatar of Vishnu. In this carnation, in fact, he recovers the entire universe from this demon who had kind of seized it from the gods, appearing in the form of a dwarf when he asks for Dan. And Bali was, very, very famous for being the great, very, very, he was known for his generosity, in fact, that. And he asked just for 3 steps of land, space from Bali, and then he grows into this humongous, shape, and 1 foot, in fact, he keeps, up, and 1 down, and the third one, he says, now there is no place for me to keep, and because I have measured the entire universe. So, of course, Bali offers his head, and that's when he realizes that it is none other than Vishnu who had come to take, his, like he had appeared in the form of Vaman too, so that he could get rid of, Bali could get rid of his ego, right? Okay, so this is what we see here in this particular image. Yeah. So, yeah, this is the detail of the same niche I'm trying to show you. This is Ganesha. And also sometimes, in fact, most of the times you will find the Karna Bhadras, or these Karna Rathas rather, they will normally have Ashdikpalas. Why the placement of Ashdikpalas are here? Because the 3 Garbhagriha walls, they will have how many Karnas? They will have 8 Karna Rathas. No, each wall has 2. So, right. So 2 this side, 2 this side, 2 this side, and 2 right. So all the Ashdikpalas are placed as per the directions that the directions that they oversee. Accordingly, the placement of these Dikpalas are kept on these Karna niches. Okay, yeah. So here, see, in the center, you can see a very, very beautiful image of Hariharaya. And you can see the composite form. Here you can see the Trishul, and here you can see the disc here, Shankh here you can see, right? And in the, the headgear also, half of this side is Shiva's Jatajut here, and this side, of course, he's wearing a crown here. Okay. This is the, on the east wall, the back wall of the temple. Okay. So we open mandap, it has with Tarangit Potika. Potika means the brackets here. These are the brackets, these stunted pillars, which are, this is the Kakshasana I was talking about, the seat back. All right. So when the pilgrim is entering from here, there is a place for him to sit here. And this is the base of that seat. The Asan Pattika, as it is called. And this is the Kakshasana, which you can lean back on. Okay. So, of course, this is the sanctum doorway that we are looking at, intricately carved. And this is where you have the Navgraha panel here. You can recognize this is Rahu that you can see here. And these are different, Mithuna couples you have here, the river goddesses, the Dwarpalas, and the various decorations, the Mithunas, etc. you have here on this. Okay. So, of course, the threshold here, the Udumbra, as it is called, Udumbra, the threshold has a lotus scroll, which normally you will find at the entrance, flanked each side by the varying designs of the kinnaras, grass mukhas, elephants, etc., etc. Okay. Fine. And a very beautiful ceiling. So far, we haven't seen very elaborate decorations of the ceilings inside the temple. But as we progress, we will see more and more, highly decorated and ornamented ceiling panels that we will see, especially when we come to Dilwara temples. Yeah. So here you can see some very clearly, this is the detail of the Navgraha panel that I'm trying to show you. Here, Rahu here. Yeah. Okay, and these Nagbandhas, this becomes a very popular motif in temple decorations, especially when we see some of the Orisen temples. This becomes a late motif there. And the Garud figure in the center you can have. And Garud and snakes, they are arch enemies. So here you can see many serpent deities actually in veneration here, if you see closely here. Here you can see, yeah, this is the detail that. So this is the ceiling of the porch or the mandap, the open mandap. All right. Intertwined these Naga figures, very, very beautiful here, and coming together here in veneration or Anjali Mudra, as we call it here. Yeah. So actually, it signifies both their submission to Garud and also more generally their benevolent, and protective function towards the temple. Okay. Now we will talk about the Sun Temple at Oshia. So there is an inscription in the nearby Jain temple at Oshia, which gives evidence of the reign of King Vatsraj. His name was, probably in the last decade of the 8th century. And this is how we, attach this dating to this particular temple. So the actual patron is actually unknown of this particular temple, but on stylistic comparison, we can, put this date of late 8th century or early 9th century to this temple. So again, you can see an open mandap. So this becomes a very, common feature of the temples from this Gujarat and Rajasthan area. The Surya temple is in fact, the oldest in the group of ancient temples in this particular area. And it's considered to be the most impressive, in fact, and the best temple in this particular area. And of course, dedicated to sun god Surya. And it kind of really oozes out a lot of elegance, although it has very restrained treatment, I would say. Okay. So, of course, let's see some slides about this. Yeah, this is the plan. So you can see here, and of course, there are some elements of this temple which were added later. So especially these two pillars were added later. So this is the open mandap. So we call this a hypostyle mandap. Hypostyle means a pillared mandap. So, and the entire mandap is divided into these 3 bays. है ना, 3 नालियां जिस तरीके से बनी हुई है यहाँ पर. And this is the Nantral area. This is the main Garbhagriha. And here you can see the main niche here, 1, 2, and 3. So similarly, the Pancharatha temple we will call this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So again, west facing. The main Garbhagriha is quite, very, very modest, in fact. Originally, it is said that it was a Panchayatan temple connected by a cloister or the pillared veranda alongside, also serving as a boundary wall, which, of course, all of it is now lost. So the cloister is an important element. We saw that in Kashmir temples and also in the later Jain temples, in which the central structure is always surrounded by a cloister or a pillared veranda, which kind of takes us to those minor shrines or the Devkulikas, etc., as it is called. So although, the temple still consists of the shrine and the mandapa and the porch as Gupta temples, but the whole is very, very elaborate, unlike, we saw the very stylized sculptures we saw in 3 niches in Devgarh temple. And that's all. There were no subsidiary, those pratirathas or the karnas, etc., etc. So in that sense, the importance that was given to the main Bhadra niche in the center, it kind of dilutes here as we, progress, because every niche is highly, highly decorated. And it's a very, very elaborate, and the decoration, and it is nearly comparable, in fact, to other highly developed temples in the country. So we attribute 2 periods of construction to this temple. Yeah. And one is, of course, the shikhar and the tall pair of pillars that we saw in this particular picture earlier. Yeah. So the shikhar and this particular temple, probably it is said, is of a later date, and also the lower part of the Jangha. Yeah. So all this was made much later. around the 10th century, it is said. Okay. So the exterior wall, I would say, let me just, very decorative moldings that you can see here. I didn't speak about this. And again, these khattikas in the moldings that we find. Very similar to what we saw in the Harihara temple. Oh. Okay. So this is, of course, the entrance to the main temple. And you can find Surya, divinity Surya here, very well placed on the lalat. And now this is the circumambulation, of course, counterclockwise, because again, it's a west facing. So as we enter in the central niche, you will find Ganesha. And here, this is the eastern niche at the back. All right. And here in the center, you have Surya figure. Very clearly, you can see the boots, everything, the two lotus flowers in his hand like this. Yeah. So, and Durga, of course, on the other side, the north side, representative of religious victory or attainment of goal or of worship, rather. So this is, of course, the other side, the northern side I'm looking at. And here you can see the sculpture of Durga, Mahishasur Mardini. Huh? In fact, it's very, very, I cannot see you more close up, but it's really very, very heavy and full form of body that you see here. And you can see her, lifting the trident, almost piercing it through the demon Harinkashipu here. And it is almost, we can say there's a marked departure, I would say, from the static and the calmness that we saw in the Gupta period sculptures. Yeah. So this is the outside open porch or the pillared mandap. And this again is a typical motif, the Ghat Pallava, where lots of vegetation is almost oozing out from this full vase, as we call it, or the pot or the kalash, and which again is a kind of very, since ancient times, it denotes a lot of auspiciousness because of the water. We have already, addressed that at length as to what water is to Indian thought or cosmology. So another very temple at Oshiaji is also the Satya Mata temple and the Mahavir Jain temple. That probably we'll talk. Mahavir Jain temple I will talk about a little later. Yeah. Then another temple I want to talk about from Gujarat. Now we are progressing. We are in almost the first quarter of 11th century. And in fact, this almost coincides with the time when Ghazni, in fact, attacked the Somnathpur temple. All right. So the typical one very, important feature of this temple is also there is one Garbhagriha, of course, here on top. This is the, at the back, this is the Garbhagriha. And in the basement also, there is one Gupta Garbhagriha. All right. So sometimes these kind of structures were made for two purposes. One was, of course, to keep the main idol safe from any kind of onslaught or, any kind of, iconoclastic, attacks from outside. Okay. And also, sometimes there was restricted entries also from, where very few people were allowed to go inside into the basement and, pray there because of the total darkness there. And, I would say it was more, simulation for the very picture of the womb that we always, attach to the very meaning of Garbhagriha. Okay. So built by, of course, the Western Chalukyas, or also known as the Solankis in the most of the temples between 11th and 13th century. So Bhima I was the king over there. And of course, 1027 CE, that's the year when Mahmud of Ghazni came and attacked. So two Jain temples also alongside this, the Vimal Vasahi temple, the Adinath temple, and the Mahavir temple at Kumbharia. So these two temples are assigned to Bhima I, and they were built in his reign, I would say that. So there is an inscription on the backside of this wall, which is dated to Vikram era 1083. So I think I have already explained to you how do you come to common era if you have a Vikram era or Vikram Samvat, because that starts at 57 BC. So if you deduct 57 from any Vikram Samvat, you will come to the current era. So that's why we date it to 1026. All right. So I would say Muslim destruction was not always for iconoclastic purpose, but also for looting and arsenal also, as we saw in the case of Mahmud Ghazni. Okay. So this particular sun temple, of course, faces east, and the sun directly shines into the main temple or the shrine at the equinox, the time or date which comes twice a year, we all know, at which the sun crosses the celestial equator, okay, when day and night are of equal length. So about 22nd September and 20th March, that's the time we have this. The grandest and Triyanga, I don't need to explain to you now what these terms mean. Triyanga, Bhadra, Karna, Pratiratha, and Pancharatha in plan. Okay, so three these, one in the center, two this side, and two this side, right? And a raised terrace, the very, very, high platform that it has where the temple is stationed, and the closed mandapa, here you can see. So this is a Sabhagraha, which I will talk about. These are two very ornamented Toran pillars. And this side, what you have is a stepped tank. So it kind of, there is an integration of these three different elements in this temple. And you have a Gur Mandap. Gur Mandap is something which is closed, right? Not an open one, right? And this is, of course, the Mukh Chatushki. Mukh Chatushki means something which is the entrance which is being held by four pillars. And this is the main Garbhagriha. So you can see the jalis here, but of course, earlier they were open. And so these are the two lateral transepts that you have on the mandap wall here, and the three, because this is the Garbhagriha, so it has three walls. So instead of three, main divinities here, or the Parivar Devtas on the Garbhagriha Bhadra niche, you have these Jal Vatayans, or probably they were open earlier, we don't know. Yeah, but of course, later, of course, now these are the modern Jalis which have been put here. Okay. And the closed mandap here, this is the mandap that we are looking at. It has, it is a pillared mandap, and it has those pillars have octagonal, positioning. Okay. And which kind of, they are connected with each other with the ornamental, archways, or the torans, as we call it, which are very, very beautiful to look at. Yeah. And similarly here also, this Sabhagraha can be approached from all four sides, and each entrance is flanked by these two beautiful pillars and joined by the different torans you will find, or the arches on all the three sides here. And inside also, these different pillars are connected together by way of these arches. So this is the plan. So by looking at this, you can clearly make out. So there are three different elements that we have here. This is the main temple here, the Sabhagriha, and the beautiful water tank here. So three separate elements actually aligned together and integrated in a very, very balanced architectural composition, I would say that. So the sanctum here, let's look at this. This is the Garbhagriha, or the sanctum. This is the pillared Gur Mandap. You can see this octagonal, these 8 pillars are there, and they are joined together with arches, or the torans here. And these are the open balconies, or not balconies, I mean, just little transepts, I would say that. Yeah. On all the three sides. So this is some deviation from the earlier temple we saw, where in the main Bhadra niche you have the main divinity, or the Parivar Devta, or some kind of sculpture you will find. But here, none of those main sculptures are there in these main niches here. Instead, you have 12 Aditya figures. Dwadash Adityas means the 12 aspects of the sun god, right? Mitra, Bhaskar, Bhanu, we know different names, yeah. Arka, these are the different names. Pushan. So all the 12 different aspects of Surya you will find on the outer wall of the Garbhagriha, and also inside the mandap also you will find the Dwadashadityas. Okay. And this is, of course, a detached Sabha Mandap here. And again, you will find similar octagonal arrangement. So, although this almost looks like a stellate plan or a star-like plan, right? But it is not. It is appearing like this? Because of so many projections or the offsets that you have on the wall. So there were mainly these offsets will impart a lot of beauty, and also it provides a lot of surface area for the various ornamentation or the divinities that can be placed on these various offsets that you have. So anything, so one is this wall, supposing, and if supposing it has many offsets like this, you'll get many surfaces, isn't it? And that was the whole purpose, right? And from here, you can see it can be approached from all four sides. And here, in fact, this was the main entrance to this Sabhagra. And with these two big pillars here, which could be, reached by this huge flight of steps here. And this is the main water body here, which again has, or a stepped well, or a bawri. These are different terms. And which could be reached. I mean, in fact, there were these small temples also here. So it used to serve multiple purpose, of course, for purification. And then there were temples, there were many different rites that were being performed. In fact, we have a similar temple, not temple, I would say, a tank from Mohenjo-daro, time also, the Great Bath, as we call it. And it is, there is a conjuncture, I would say, that probably it was also used for some kind of religious activity. Yeah. Okay. So this is the open. Here you can see very clearly of course, you can't see the backside, the main temple, it cannot be seen. So this is the detail of the stepped well, very, very popular. So we are talking about Modhera Sun Temple here. Yeah. So these are the smaller shrines that we have here everywhere. On all the steps here you will find. And this is the open Sabha Mandap here. Okay. In fact, the very long-standing wood carving tradition of Gujarat, which is still famous today, was a model for this lavish sculptural work which was found in typical Solanki monuments. In fact, hardly a surface has been left uncarved, and you almost feel that the temple is made of wood here, the kind of carving, the intricate carving that you encountered in this temple. Yeah. Okay. So in front of this Sabha Mandap, this is the large, these two pillars, which actually had a toran on top, which has been lost right now. So the entire shikhar is not there. This toran is not there. And even the superstructure of this Sabhagraha is also not there. But still it is, so remarkable, and for its very, very fine proportion and the aesthetic appeal. And also the integration of these three different elements that have come together, right? So that's the typical beauty of this temple here. So elevation, when we talk about the Pitha, Vedibandha, Jangha, Varandika, and the Shikhar, the same elements are there in the elevation. So here I can show you one aspect of Surya here very clearly that you can see here. So you can see the 7 horses here, the boots here, and again, the 2 hands where he's holding 2 lotus flowers. Yeah. And also all the Ashdikpalas you will find. I've spoken about the transepts already. Now, after this, we will come to Devi temple, Ambika Mata temple at Jagat. So 10th century now we have arrived. So this is a very, very little known temple in Jagat village. But why are we looking at this? Because it has all the elements of the highly developed Nagar temple. All those elements we will, find in this. So this is a very small village, Jagat, very close to Udaipur, almost 50 kilometers from Udaipur, which dates to 961 CE. Okay. So its numerous fine sculptures are in an excellent state of preservation, and that's why we, study this temple. Ambika Mata, of course, is a Devi goddess. It's a goddess temple with images of Durga and many other female divinities. In fact, only male divinities that we find in this temple are the Ashtadikpalas and some images of Shiva we find because of the Devi temple. Okay. So the red flag here, I have already spoken to you, so that it shows that it is still in worship. Okay. So there are inscriptions that we find from 961 CE when it was reconstructed. So which means that this is not the time when it was built. It was जिसको हम कहते हैं ना हिंदी में जीर्णोद्धार. The 961 is the time when it was renovated. That's what the inscription says. And it says that obeisance to Amba Devi and built by Sambapura, son of Valluka, okay, of the Gohila dynasty of Mewar. And the Shikhar, as you can see here, Shikhar, this is the entrance. So this is called the Mukh Chatushki. The entrance, the open porch is being held on these two pillars here and two pilasters at the back. So Mukh Chatushki, then you have the entrance, the Mukh Mandap here, then the Good Mandap here with these Jal Bhatayan again. You can see, of course, this is the original plan of the temple. And then this is the main temple here that you have. And there are various aspects of Devi or goddess Ambika or Ambika Kshemenkari that you will find on this particular temple. Okay. So, in fact, there is archaeological evidence that reveals that there are these Matrika images that were found from this particular temple dating to almost 6th century CE. So, as I already said, that the temple was already in existence earlier. Okay, so these are the images of Ayandri, or the female aspect of Indra and Brahmani. And this you can recognize by her holding of the Vajra. So these two are basically, they come from the cult of the seven mothers or the Saptamatrikas, and which are in their, I would say, formal order, of course, Brahmani, Maheshwari, Kaumari, Vaishnavi, Varahi, Varahi, the boar incarnation of Vishnu, or Indrani, then the Chamunda. In fact, of all these, Varahi, with boar's head, can easily, and the Chamunda, these are the easiest to recognize. The others sometimes, in fact, display the attributes of their parallel masculine, deities, like the Maheshwari will have some attributes of Shiva, or Indrani, as I said, she's holding a Vajra, and that's how you can recognize them. Then some other sculptures were also found from the site. They include a sculpture of Mahishasur Mardini, and probably this is another one of the Saptamatrikas. Then also found are images from the later period, 8th and 9th century, of seated goddesses. And the inscriptions, in fact, and the archaeological evidence indicate that possibly that worship of the goddess was very, very prevalent in this area right from 6th century AD, I would say that. And about 10 inscriptions have been found dating from 961 to 18th century. Okay. And the archaeological evidence we've already seen right from 6th century. So we have this intermittent, I would say, records of 14 centuries of worship of the female principle at this very site. which is still in worship today. So in fact, there are a lot of tantric elements that have crept into this Devi worship. So in fact, one of the arms of Tantra worship also will, in fact, not only one of the arms, mainly they believe in that the female power is the ultimate godhead. Okay. So one cult, in fact, is very, very secretive and the other one is not. That's the main difference between the two. But both of them, they believe that it is the female head. So, and also some of the tantric practices, we all know, all kinds of sacrifices and balis are being offered. So now bali, in North India, we normally attach with any kind of animal sacrifice, or in earlier times, probably there are, stories that probably humans were also being sacrificed. But in Dravidian temples, you will always have a Bali Pita, a kind of a pedestal where you can go and, place your offerings. So Bali there always means any kind of offering. It could be some kind of prasadam or, flowers, etc. It's not always that you are kind of sacrificing any animal, etc., etc. Okay. So in fact, these images are still placed inside the mandap, and it is said, and one more image I will say that. Yeah. So this is, it is construed that probably this was the original cult icon of the temple, which has been identified as the Ambika Kshemankari on the basis of the original pedestal and the parikar. This is the frame on which the deity was installed, and it clearly matches in terms of the stone, the age of both these elements, the icon and the pedestal, etc. Which this particular frame is actually still present in the sanctum. And there is a lot of importance which is accorded to this particular deity in the temple. Although this particular icon is not present in the Garbhagriha. Okay. So in that sense, the image inside the Garbhagriha has been changed twice. Once it is the original, the Ambika Kshemankari image that we saw earlier. Then this is the Mahishasur-Mardini image that we have. And now this is the Ambika Mata, more recent one, made of marble as late as 2000 CE. This is as old, as new as this. Okay, but it is placed again on the original frame or the parikar. Okay. So this is the plan of the temple, the entire compound or the the precinct of the temple here. So this is the Asthan Mandap, and this is the entrance. And it's very important for us to understand this, the needle of the compass, where it is pointing to. And that's when we get the where the temple is facing. So here we can say this is north. So naturally then this direction is east. So east facing temple, Mukh Chatushki here, 2 pillars here, 2 pilasters here, entries by few steps here. Then these are the open Jal Vatayans you have here. Clearly you can see the niches here, the Panchratha, Trianga, and on all the 3 walls here, right? You have the niches here. And there is a small attachment here. There is a water chute here. And this is called the Snapnagra. Here you can see it in detail here, which kind of, it is there for the collection of all the ablution water that, is being poured on the deity. So through this water chute or the pranal that we spoke about last time, that all that water is getting collected here. Okay. And this is the Antaral, God Mandap, hypostyle. It's, resting on 4 pillars. And then because of the pillars and then the corresponding ceiling here, you'll have very, very intricate carving again. So to understand the very, plan and, the different walls, I thought I will show you a very interesting 3D, depiction of this particular temple. And you will really enjoy watching it. Can you hear the sound? Yeah.
No, ma'am, it's not audible.
No.
You need to share sound.
Should I share the sound? Huh? Okay, let me do that. Okay, 1 second. Stop share. Then share screen. This one.
You can choose option optimize for video.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Right. I think we are good to go. Now you can see.
Yes, it's audible.
Nice, nice. So this, it's a beautiful concept, and it's so easy then to understand the different parts of the temple here. And they are also labeled, you know. So the Jal Vatayan here, the Jangha, the Vediband, the Pitha, the Kakshasana I was talking about, the planting portion where you can lean back. So this is the Asan Pattika, where one can sit. These are the Pattikas on the, the socle level, the base level. Okay, we'll find divinities here also. This is the Pitha, the lowermost area, or the Jagati as it is called. And the Pancharathas, you can clearly see the 5 offsets. So the Kapili is the Antaraj, all right, the vestibule, joining the main Mandapya and the Garbhagriha and the Mandap. This is the Kapili wall. And these are the Karnas, the main Bhadra and the Pratibhadra. So the 5 offsets you can easily see here. This is the corner wall division, and here you can see a Dikpala figure. Every wall will have 2 Karnas, one this side and one this side. So here you can see that this is the main Bhadranish, the Pratiratha, the Karna, and the Salilantar in between. And these are some of the, the Saptamatrika figures you will find in these lower niches. So here the Mahishasur Mardini, here you can see Mahishasur emerging in human form. Yeah? The Vyalas, the Sura Sundaris, the Dikpalas on the 2 sides. Accordingly, on this side also another Dikpal will be here. This is the Snapnagra, the adjoining area I told you collects all the ablution water. And this also has an image of Mahishasura. And this is, of course, the pranal, where Ghat Sundari holding a water pot. So the water emerges from here and it gets collected inside this particular body, pranal chamber. Yeah, so I think you got pretty much the idea I wanted to let you know. The different offsets, and inside then you will see these 4 pillars inside. Yeah. I thought, these 3D kind of videos, they really help you to understand the whole concept. So these are the salilantars I was talking about, the recesses which hold the Vyala figure. Yeah. Okay, I think I can stop here. I think everybody has got the steps, and this is, of course, the entrance. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move. So we spoke about the Dikpals earlier. So these are the 8 Dikpals which are placed on the 8 Karna niches. So I hope by now everybody understands. So this is the Western Bhadra niche, the central one, which has the different aspects of, in fact, Ambika or Durga are placed on these main niches. And here she is shown as Katyayani. I think I showed you the same figure in that 3D video also. Of course, surrounded by Vyalas. And here you can very clearly see 2 men here, one at the base and one is kind of trying to ride the Vyala. And I spoke about this particular where, there is a warrior who's trying to control the ego or the passion or the illusion by the sword of dispassion and by shielding with the, by the, knowledge, right? And only then he is capable of riding the Vyala. That was the whole philosophy I spoke about. Very, very dynamic, I would say, stance here. And in fact, subtlety is imbued with the power combined with grace in this particular sculpture of Katyayani. Okay, and so how do we know it is Katyayani? From all the attributes that it has, and from different texts that we have, Aparajit Pricha, Rupa Mandan, or Vishnu Dharmotar Puran. So accordingly, we say that this aspect of Devi is Katyayani or Jagdamba or Ambika, whatever. So these are on top, these are called the Kaksha Kutas. So Kakshasana, I already spoke about, the lean back, and the Kutas means it is kind of covered. So here you will find some kind of figures which are, emanating from this particular figure. So these are called the Kaksha Kutas. Okay. So sometimes you will have those Udgam pediments, and sometimes you will also have these Kaksha Kutas on top. Yeah. So then this is another, this is the southern Bhadra niche. And again, you have Mahishasur here, not in anthropomorphic, but totally in animal form or zoomorphic form here you will find here. And similarly, the Vyala figures and the Apsaras or the Surasundaris you will find flanked. And here you can find her riding an elephant also. This is another one. This is southern eastern projection wall that you have here. Okay. And very interestingly, you can see this small figure here. It is the lion mount, which is also pouncing upon the Mahishasur, contributing in that way. And here you see Mahishasur almost totally in human form. And you can see the lion mount almost biting into one of his legs here, right? And of course, the Devi is not shown in a very, very aggressive form, as if she has already vanquished the Asur in this particular image. An example of very, very, benevolent Ambika. Yeah. So this is, of course, Chamunda, one of the, another aspect of Devi, a fierce form of Devi, in fact. very frightening, emaciated. Her attributes are normally, she'll have fangs, a sword, Shiva's trident, skull, skull garland. She'll also have a skull bowl in her hand, or skeletal corpse are there, on which she's standing. Here you can see. So it's very, very easy to recognize. But sometimes you will find difficulties recognizing Chamunda and Kali. All right. So because they share some of the attributes, but Kali sometimes, not always, will be fearful or frightening as compared to Chamunda. Okay. So here you have figure of Saraswati. You can recognize by the different attributes that she's holding a Veena, Kamandalu, Pustak, etc. Okay. So these are some of the Dikpala figures also you have in the Karna niches. I told you the 8 niches that you have. This is the Kuber, the guardian of the East. He can be recognized by these, full vases that he's holding in his hand. Yeah. He, of course, is the presiding deity of all the yakshas. Then here you have Vayu, god of the wind, guardian of the northwest direction, rides on an antelope or the deer, you can see here, because of course deer is also known for its the speed with which it runs, and he also holds a banner or a furled what do you call it, a banner or a jhanda, very, very graceful swaying body, round, very handsome and contemplative, I would say that. Yeah. Okay, so these are some of the Pita or the basal moldings I wanted you to know. So this is, of course, just the diagram. This is the grass patika or the Kirti Mukhas that we have. So as I told you earlier when we were talking about Kirti Mukh introduction, that in Western India it is called the grass patti, when it is shown in the basal moldings. So here you have number of them placed one after the other. And this is called the Gajpita. Here you can see the front portion of the elephant. All right. So Gajpita is nothing but an elephant frieze. And I'm just trying to equate this with this diagram. Then, of course, you have on this Kumbha, you have the pair of Kinnara figures, right? And then as you go up, of course, this is the Kalash here. Then you have the Kapot here. Okay. And with these small Gavakshas or the Chandrashalas here. Okay. So these are the bottom, those small niches I was showing you in that 3D diagram, where some of these 3 Bhadra offsets at the Pita level of the main temple on the Garbhagriha, they house the 3 goddesses, the Maheshwari, the Brahmani, and the Vaishnavi. Okay, all the corresponding 3 main trinity, the male, gods, Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, their, female powers are stationed here. And also because of some tantric influence, there is some variation here. So here you have Vaishnavi with Gada and a Chakra, but her mount is a Preta here. All right. So it is also that sometimes in tantric cult, whatever that you see, it has some other esoteric meaning, which a commoner like us, we who are not initiated into a tantric practice, we cannot decipher the meaning. And it is on purpose that it is kind of to confuse a common person. It is only a person who is initiated into the tantric cult will be able to decipher the meanings of these kind of allegories, I would say that. Yeah. Here, of course, this is another one, Brahmani you can recognize by the 3 faces that it has. And it has a lion mount here. Normally, it will have a swan, but it has other attributes like the 3 faces, the lotus, the Akshmal here, the Kamandalu here that she's holding. So that's how we can recognize her. And this is the soul figure of Shiva that I told you. Which is here, Shiva, of course, in his yogic posture. I showed you this, in fact, on one of the temple walls of Radhishwara temple. He, of course, holds a trident and a cobra here, and you can recognize him by that. And this, of course, is the superstructure on the mandap. I think I'm running very late here. And these are some more sculptural details I wanted to show you. Yeah. And we will quickly, this is the pranala that I was talking about. This is the ceiling decoration, the cusped ceiling, and it is kind of, this area is kind of sunken inside, and there was this pendentive lotus which has now been lost. And this particular decoration will find its culmination in when we look at the Mount Abu temples, yeah. And we'll just quickly look at, I think, 2-3 Jain temples also, if you allow me, or I can take it up later, however that you want. Should I continue for 15 minutes? Yeah. Hello? Can you hear me?
मैम आप मतलब समापन की ओर आगे बढ़े हम लोग.
अच्छा.
ले लीजिएगा. आपकी आवाज बंद हो गई है, म्यूट हो गए.
Okay. Should I continue or not?
नहीं, हम लोग मतलब समापन की तरफ आगे बढ़े, अगली बार ले लीजिएगा.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's finish this then. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
तो आपका हो गया खत्म कि?
Yeah, I have stopped screen sharing.
तो किसी को कोई प्रश्न हो तो आप 1-2 प्रश्न और.
ठीक है. Yeah. Let me see in the chat. है ना? Okay. So, how the ancient people would have carved the Nagband with limited amount of tools on stone? How did they end up with perfect details and smoothness while carving it? I think that was the dexterity of those shilpis and, the karigars, the kind of devotion and the time that it took. It was not, it was unlike today's times. They did it with lot of dedication. It was almost like it was their puja or offering to the god. And that was the reason that these shilpis or the karigars never put their names initially on any of these carvings or sculptures, etc. Yeah, it all was their offering to the gods. That's how they were able to achieve this. And we get these graphic representations to teach our students. Which graphic representation? The one that I showed you just now? Is that the one you mean? The 3D graphic representation? Yeah. So if you're talking about that, if you search online, if you search really, very extensively, then you will find some of these 3D presentations online. And if you want, I can share that also with you all. Yeah, there's no issue about that. Okay. Which other questions? So, when you talk about east facing and west facing, there are many factors that will contribute to any temple, whether it is east facing or west facing. Number one, on the grid plan, the Vastu Shastra that we spoke about, the Vastu Mandal diagram, okay, that will also tell you, and also the very site which is chosen for the making of the temple, that also governs as to where which side the temple will face, and also the geographical location of the temple, right? And as far as the circumambulation is concerned, when we are entering from the east, this is how you will do the pradakshina. You know, the deity always remains on the on your right side, okay? But when it is west facing, when you are in the opposite direction, so you have to go like this in the opposite direction, so that again the deity is in the same direction as if the temple was on the east side. And that's how you start from northern side. If the temple was facing east side, you will start from southern wall like this. If this is east, then the next wall will be southern side. So this is how you will circumambulate. And if this is west side, then what will be this side? This is the southern side. So then that's how you will start like this. And first you will have Ganesha, and then the one of the Parivar Devtas or the main divinity of the temple. And on the other side, you will have the Mahishasura. Normally, that is the order that is being followed. Yeah. Ma'am, why are the shikhars of the northern temples lower than the southern ones? Actually, not. The earlier temples were not as tall as the later temples of later Dravidian temples. But when we come to Khajuraho temples or the Lingaraj temple in Orissa, you will find they are very, very tall. But if you are talking about the Gopuras of the Dravidian temples, they are certainly very tall. They are taller than the main, main Viman of the Dravidian temple also. Yeah. But what you're saying is not true. Probably it was the earlier temples, earlier Naga temples you will find, which are little bit smaller or not as tall as the other Dravidian temples or Naga temples. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any Dravidian style? Yeah. So, yeah, we will talk about it in great length. We will cover many Dravidian temples, the Vrihadishwara temple, the Meenakshi temple, the Chidambaram temple, the Kanchipuram Kailashnath temple. These are all examples of Dravidian temples. Yeah. And I think we are pretty much done with all the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद पवन जी, आपने गुजरात और राजस्थान के स्थापत्य कला पर आज बहुत ही सुंदर प्रवचन दिया विथ ऑल द पिक्चर्स एंड 3D मूवीज। तो बहुत धन्यवाद सभी हमारे जो प्रतिभागी हैं, उनके जो यहाँ कमेंट्स आ रही है उससे पता चलता है कि वो बहुत ही इच्छुक है सारा जानने के लिए और बहुत ही प्रसन्न भी हैं आपके सिखाने के ढंग से। आज का इस प्रवचन को समाप्त घोषित करें उसके पहले अगले शनिवार को महाशिवरात्रि होने के कारण शनिवार को लेक्चर नहीं होगा। सीधा हम 22 तारीख को मिलेंगे। 22 तारीख 7 बजे हमारा लेक्चर प्रारंभ स्टार्ट हो जाएगा। हमारा जो ये ऑनलाइन अभ्यासक्रम है उसका हम लोग काफी यहाँ सभी इंतजार रहते हैं कि कब आएंगे, कब हम लोग आगे का अध्ययन करेंगे। तो ये सभी हमारे जिज्ञासुओं की तरफ से आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करते हैं। बीएल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंडोलॉजी के द्वारा आयोजित यह ऑनलाइन अभ्यासक्रम, उसमें जिस तरह से लोगों ने बहुत ही उत्साहपूर्वक भाग लिया है, उन सभी को मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं। आज हम यहीं आज के कार्यक्रम को समाप्त करते हैं। हम 22 तारीख को पुनः मिलेंगे।
Thank you.